We're back to ready to pod. Haha, yeah!
Whoa! I thought you might have some new warm-ups ready to go for 2025. I'd say it's a variation on the last one.
I've had a couple of cups of coffee, I've had a big teaching day, and I'm going to get a bit delirious. Oh!
I'm worried. I'm very worried. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Fifth Period, the film podcast hosted by two media teachers, where today we are kicking things off for 2025. Yes, we had fun last year, but we never look back, darling. It distracts from the now. My name is Mr. Brown, and with me as always is...
Mr. Boylan!
Leroy Jenkins.
Good reference.
Good reference, me.
References are out of control,
They
Mr.
sure
Brown.
are.
We're
They
back.
sure are.
We are back in town. We are back in the fifth period. It's back for 2025. Film Club is back. It's all back. Everything is back. It's never been more back.
Wow, the energy is high today, and I am loving every minute of it.
It's good fun. Obviously, first pod of the year. It's an exciting time. We've settled back into remembering how to teach. Sometimes it takes me a little bit of time. That's okay.
Oh, me too, mate. Me too.
But I feel like the rhythm's back, and it's a perfect time to get back podding. And what a film to come back with.
Yeah, really good. Now, it was a nice break. Good to have a bit of a relax and a reset. But I will admit, I was itching to get back into this. And you and I, even towards the end of the holiday period, we got together a couple of times. We watched some movies.
We did.
We went to IMAX and we watched a movie. We saw a 4K restoration of Seven.
Yes, the David Fincher classic.
We watched a horror film, a houseboat horror.
What a time that was.
Oh my goodness, it was great. But we also wanted to do a little bit of podding as well. So for anyone who hasn't yet seen, we did something a little bit different to our traditional fifth period style. We got together and we did a ranking of the entire Scream franchise. Now, obviously, we are both very passionate about Scream, so it seemed appropriate to be doing that with number 7 starting production.
Is it right in the thick of 20 million cast announcements happening?
Yeah.
Particularly after we did that video as well.
Yeah, we would have had a lot more to talk about in that video if we had held off but 5 days. But the announcements are coming in thick and fast, so... if you're a Scream fan, definitely go check that out and let us know what your Scream ranking is. Did we get it right? Are there a few things you disagree with? We would love to get your opinions on that.
Yes, and if there's any other sort of film franchises that you want to see us sort of have a crack at ranking in a similar fashion, also let us know as well. That type of video is a little bit harder to do during the school term, but if the demand's there, we'll do it.
We will. We always bend to the will of the people.
That's what we're known for.
That's it. In addition to our main discussion of The Incredibles today, we will also be talking through our weekly watches and breaking down some pretty major tantalizing trailers. So if you want to skip ahead to any of that, I will leave time codes in the description below.
Hi, it's Georgia
and Sienna,
and today we're going to be talking about The Incredibles.
A big thank you to Sienna and Georgia for the intro to the pod today. I was telling you, Mr. Boylan, how thrilled I was to be getting some of my Year 11s along to Film Club. So they were both there with Anna, who hopefully will do an intro down the track, but they were just super enthusiastic, really keen to participate, and I'm always very pleased when I get that sort of enthusiasm inside the classroom, outside the classroom. I didn't get to teach this group last year. I didn't have the Year 10 media class, but they are a joy to have in the classroom. Awesome. And hopefully we'll be getting them along to future film clubs as well.
Absolutely. And just, I think generally just on the first film club, I guess, of the year, what a turnout, Mr. Brown. The energy was off the chain. It felt like that's probably the most amount of chairs I might have seen in a film club, particularly the start of the year. Fantastic.
Yeah, and from all different year levels.
Yep.
So it's really cool to see all the students coming together so early. Hopefully that kind of engagement in film club either continues or grows.
Yep.
But yeah, just a really, really warm reception for our first one back. Cool. Let's jump in. All right, so the film starts with these opening interviews, and I think it is a really, really clever way to establish the world of the film and also get to know some of the key players early on.
Yeah, I think obviously we get a pretty sort of clear understanding of like the time period. I guess at that time it's closer to 50s, I guess, when it's happening.
Yeah, 47, I believe it is.
Yeah.
But it is a confusing thing to identify the time period because even though the main storyline takes place in the 60s, it does feel a lot more modern than the 60s. And it's because they've kind of incorporated this James Bond-esque futuristic style of the 60s.
Yes.
So the clothing that they are wearing feels very 60s, but some of the gadgets and technology that they have around feels a little bit more modern.
Yes, sort of like this neo-classic sort of vibe. I like it. The aesthetic of this film definitely sort of, it brings me in as a fan, particularly of those Bond films. And yeah, I think the interviews are a great way to sort of establish three of the main players, Bob, Mr. Incredible, Helen, Elastigirl, and then obviously Lucius as Frozone. But yeah,
Girls, I don't want to know about your mild-mannered alter ego. They pretty much bring in the idea that obviously supers exist straight away.
Yep.
People know that they exist, but they obviously do have this secret identity. And that plays into it pretty early on when we start to realize that some people have some issues with supers and they have to go into hiding.
Yeah, I think the world building right from the first minute of the movie is supreme. Like it just... It plays on so many familiar things I think we know as like sort of superhero fans. Obviously, when this film came out in 2004, we'd had the Batman movies of Burton and Schumacher, and we'd had the first Spider-Man from Sam Raimi, and the same year as well that Spider-Man 2 came out. Borrows so much from things that have come before with the really interesting sort of take on a lot of these things. And I think Brad Bird does a really terrific job of that.
100%. And we also start to learn some of their frustrations as superheroes as well. Like, I love when Mr. Incredible's like, sometimes you just want to say, I just cleaned up this mess. Can we keep it clean for 5 minutes? And he's like laughing and taking the mic off and trying to leave.
And the interviewer's like, whoa,
sit down.
You have super strength. Please calm down.
But I also like the dynamics between gender norms at the time.
Girls, come on. Leave the saving of the world to the men?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
And then the first piece of music from genuinely one of my favorite film scores of all time, done by Michael Giacchino, which I mean, there's going to be a lot of Fantastic Four references throughout this podcast. But Michael Giacchino is doing the score for the new Fantastic Four, First Steps, which we might talk about later in a little other segment. What do you think so? But just immediately, this score dropping, I remember like watching this film at the cinemas. That piece of music really got me. As like a brass player, I played this at high school as well. And
we play it here.
Never been so excited to like play something in band when I saw that come across the music stand. It's like, yes!
So cool.
It's just incredibly upbeat. It's very iconic now. It just captures everything I think about the tone of this film so perfectly. And we just get dropped straight into the middle of the action, Mr. Brown.
Yeah, and so we've got Mr. Incredible in his little sports car, but then it kind of transforms into his Incredicar. Awesome. Really awesome. I mean, you've already mentioned Bond. We talked about the fact that there's this 60s era, so bringing in spies and espionage type film. It works so well together. The balance between superhero and spy in this movie is really, really cool. Brad Bird does the espionage films really well.
Yep.
Some people may know that he also directed Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, number 4, and there are a lot of familiar themes between that. So we get gadgets in this one as well, but also they effectively get disavowed very early on, and they're kind of in hiding.
Very much like, the MI team.
Yeah, so...
Another part of this scene that I really like... all of it feels very like classic superhero with like the car chase with the cops and everything like that, and people who have just robbed a bank and everything like that. It feels more advanced than anything that had sort of come before with what Pixar had done. So
absolutely.
the fact that you've got guns and explosions and these sort of things, and I really love the sound design of like a lot of the weaponry they use in this film.
The aspect of the animation that always blew me away, it's such a weird specific detail, but the hair on the characters. It looks so good, especially because everyone has very different styles of hair.
Yes.
There's tones through the hair rather than just going for like one matte color, which was pretty traditional. But you see the individual strands and fibers later on when Dash is like coming out of the ocean after he's been kicking. It looks like real hair. So he has to save a cat from a tree,
Squeaker.
and the Australian lady.
My cat Squeaker won't come down. No, he's quite tame.
He's quite tame.
Yeah, oh my God. Excuse me, Mr. Incredible Mate, can you get my cat out of the tree?
My bloody cat out of the tree.
So we went on a bit of a tangent when we heard this in film club, and we were coming up with like alternate names for the cat. Like, can you save my cat Sheila from the tree?
Hey, Cobber, can you save...
Afterwards, we'll throw a couple of shrimps on the barbie.
Yeah, just crack a couple of tinnies and then we'll be fine. Yeah.
He doesn't have time for that because the robbers are coming roaring down the street. So he instead throws a couple of tree trunks on the road.
It's pretty good. Like, so he immediately is trying to shake Squeaker off and doesn't get off, and he's like, they're going to come around the corner.
Just
so
like
very quickly, he's just
urgency
like,
of it.
flips it back over his shoulder, slams into the criminals, and they are stopped. And then we get probably one of my favorite lines and moments in the film. Just like timing is impeccable, because he's like, okay, cool, thanks guys, I'm going to get in the car. And it immediately cuts to a small child wearing a similar costume to Mr. Incredible, and he's just like, cool, ready for takeoff.
Yeah.
And Mr. Incredible's like, what is going on? Gets me every time.
The Buddy character, especially in this opening, is so much fun. He's just obsessed with Mr. Incredible. He wants to be Incrediboy.
Yeah, very much like playing like sort of the Robin sidekick, or like Bucky, Captain America. Even calls himself, I could be your ward at one stage.
Yep.
Yeah, so.
But he's a pretty smart kid. He's invented rocket boots already.
Exactly.
And again, we get this frustration from Mr. Incredible because obviously he's bouncing from like crime to crime. Even though he really enjoys being a superhero, there's this frustration with why can't some people help themselves, and now he's got to deal with this kid. And he's trying to put on a bit of a brave face, but he's a bit fed up.
He's a bit frustrated.
And just fires him out of the car.
Yeah, because he already says like, oh, you're the guy from all those like conventions and everything. You're always asking for an autograph. So clearly he's not just a new person. Like, ejectocito, cuz.
The way his body crumbles when he lands on the grass.
Might be dead.
He might. Well, he's not. He's not.
He's not.
They could have saved themselves a lot of trouble if he was. That's what I was thinking about the bomb later. Just let him explode. No film.
Roll credits.
Another interesting thing about Buddy, though, he's wearing a very similar outfit to Mr. Incredible. But Mr. Incredible recognizes him straight away. I like the idea of the very teeny tiny mask.
The domino mask, yeah.
Protecting their identities.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Goes to do a little bit more crime fighting. Someone who's stolen someone's purse on a rooftop.
What are they doing on a rooftop? It's a strange getaway.
It is. And about to get taken down by Mr. Incredible, but gets a punch from another person. And who's that? It's Elastigirl.
And this banter is fantastic. There's a lot of like double entendres, especially with the fact that she's flexible and can like bend and stretch and stuff.
Whatever happened to ladies first?
Well, whatever happened to equal treatment?
Hey, look, wait. The lady got me first.
It works really well. Again, that like banter feels very James Bond and spy, and yeah, there's always elements of like sexiness between the characters in an espionage film. So I really like this. I love the wordplay with her saying she had a previous engagement, because she's literally engaged to him.
Yeah. Elastigirl sort of cartwheels away. And then we also get another hero flying by and it's like, hey, Frozone.
Yeah.
And it's, shouldn't you be getting ready? Like, I got time.
He's got time for a couple more things. Sees a man jump off a building and dashes across and saves him. I think you broke something.
Pretty heavy going for like the start of a Pixar film.
Yeah.
I probably didn't sort of appreciate it at the time and like understand or unpack the value of it. But yeah, basically stop someone in the middle of a suicide attempt.
The film as a whole is very dark for a kid's film.
100%. Pixar are always cooking with gas when I feel like they can appeal to a very wide audience. Definitely some adult themes. When Bob replies and was like, with counseling, I believe you'll come to forgive me.
Speaking of cooking with gas, though, who's the villain that pops up next?
Bon voyage.
Bon voyage.
Monsieur Incroyable.
I am French, can't you tell by my outrageous accent?
And the name of my villainous ways, Bon Voyage, which is pretty good.
It's a really good wordplay. He's a fun villain. I like that when Buddy comes back into it, he is equally frustrated by Buddy and like teams up with Mr. Incredible to like make fun of him.
Gotta get rid of him. I'm throwing a bomb at him. But yeah, it's just like Mr. Incredible and Incredible.
Yeah.
And he's just there. He's just always just there. It's silhouetted against the moonlight, clumsily flies over with his rocket boots.
There's some great visual moments here. I love when he goes next to the safe door, and because of the warped metal, it makes it look like he's got a big bulbous chest in his reflection, because that's how he sees himself.
Very, very good. So it has a bit of a chat with him about how he can invent things. You don't have to have powers to be super. Obviously, that's sort of what plays into things a little bit later down the track. Yeah, Mr. Incredible says, no, fly home, buddy. Like, I work alone.
Yep.
Which also plays into Bob's sort of solidarity and this belief that he needs to get things done himself.
We get a bit of that Home Alone, Macaulay Culkin remembering what his family said as being like a lot more spiteful than it was. Later on, when that quote comes back into it, you can tell there's a darker tone to it. He's clearly re-recorded it, made it seem darker than it actually was.
Exactly. And then Bon Voyage very smartly throws one of his little bombs that attaches himself to the devastating fashion accessory of a superhero, the cape.
The cape, yeah.
Which will definitely come back a couple of times. Buddy flies off. Mr. Incredible's trying to stop him, but the bomb hits some train tracks.
Yep.
And another disaster is afoot as the train tracks explode.
Yeah, very Spider-Man 2 there.
Very, yes.
So you said this came out after the first Spider-Man? Or?
Correct, so same year as Spider-Man 2.
Oh my goodness.
They knew. Something about...
Who did it better?
To a side-by-side comparison.
But yeah, we're seeing like incident after incident, so you can understand why he's getting a little burnt out by it. But he does manage to save the day, but he can't stick around to chase after Bon Voyage, who gets away. And I love when he puts Incrediboy or Buddy into the police car, and he says, Skippy here. And then he goes, Incrediboy, you're not affiliated with me. It's like, don't taint my brand, man.
He's like, I've got this copyrighted and trademarked young man. That's what he says.
Yeah, and he says it in that tone, too. That's perfect, Mr. Incredible.
Perfect, Mr. Incredible. This Australian film.
With his pet cat, Squeaker.
Squeaker. Skippy. Yeah, well, Skippy's pretty Australian.
There you go.
He says that, hey, I've got no time to sort of stop this. And it's that kind of, the cops are a little bit frustrated with him that he's like, well, Bon Voyage got away. Sorry, guys. Got
Haven't I done enough? Never enough. So he heads to the wedding, and I really like they kind of race through the wedding. He's like, take off the mask, secret identities. But the key part of it is that it seems like, oh, this is their happily ever after. What could possibly go wrong? And then we get the hard cut. Supers have to go into hiding because there's been a huge backlash from the public.
Yeah, so it's triggered by the fact that Mr. Incredible saves that gentleman.
Mr. Sandwich didn't ask to be saved. Mr. Sandwich didn't want to be saved.
Nice, very good. And this opens the floodgates for all these other people to sue
Complain,
supers.
yeah.
And then the lady's like, it's time for these supers for their secret identities to become their only identities.
Yeah, and we get like the newspaper articles coming out, which again is very like 60s comic book, the spinning articles. My favorite one that came up was X-Ray Peeping Tom.
Good.
Very funny.
Where are they now? They're walking among us.
Yeah.
There's a flash forward, and he's working 15 years later.
All the bright colors of the previous image are completely gone. We've got a really desaturated office
Very
building.
muted, yes.
His shoulders are all like slumped up. He looks tired, exhausted. It just seems like this is my mundane life now.
Was it supposed to be the same character? Is it the same old lady?
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think she has an Australian accent, does she?
No.
Well,
it's faded in time.
That's the giveaway. I think
She's
we would have
moved
picked
from
up
Australia
on it.
to the city, and it's gone over time. And very quickly sort of works out how depressed Bob is and dissatisfied he is with the current status quo. On the phone with Helen, obviously they're married and they have multiple kids.
Three kids, Dash, Violet, and Jack.
Yep.
And we get two very different perspectives from both Bob and Helen. So when it cuts to Helen, she's so excited by even the most mundane of events.
Unpacking the
We're
last
finally
box.
moved in. Does it count if we've been moving in for 3 years? But we finally unpacked the last box, and
he's
she's
like-
so excited.
And he's like, that's great, honey.
Yeah, he's like, oh my God, my life is so boring.
Yeah. So he's still trying to save people at work, though.
Yes, he is, in his own way.
Yep.
And it's really interesting, too, because this film has a lot of different themes in it. about family. It has themes about like what makes you special. But it also, Bob's whole arc in this film is he's essentially going through a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
It's a metaphor for that. And it works so well by setting him up in this workplace that does seem so mundane. And so whatever he can do to still be saving people that little bit, he's trying to kind of get that out of it. And so he gives the woman advice on how he can secretly help. He's like, I can't help you. If I was going to help you, I would tell you this.
And go to this address, and he's like, write this down.
Yeah.
It's really good. Despite Bob, being this sort of large, strong character, he's getting bullied at work by his boss, who's really well voiced by Wallace Shawn, who also voices Rex in Toy Story.
Rex, very, very identifiable voice. A couple of Toy Story... Oh, that's pretty good. A couple of Toy Story voices in this. We've also got John Ratzenberger as the Underminer, who is Ham in Toy Story.
Yep.
There's a few different references to some Toy Story things. I feel like Pixar's very good at putting in Easter eggs to their other films.
Oh, 100%.
Ooh, yeah.
Cut to Helen has got called into school in the principal's office because Dash is suspected of putting a tack on someone's chair.
I adore this scene. Firstly, the fact that his teacher's name is Mr. Humph, which really just encapsulates his personality.
Yep.
But he is a thoroughly underrated character. He's just in this one scene, but
he's hilarious.
He's like a conspiracy theorist, and he's like, coincidence? I think not!
I use that all the time.
So
It's
good.
just, I don't know, it's like, this little rat is guilty! And it's literally just like, right there. And it's just Dash literally just moving slightly forward in his chair.
Yeah, and the principal's just like, oh my God, this loon.
So sorry.
I'm
Oh my
embarrassed.
God.
Why did we call you in?
Why have I employed this man? But then Dash walks out with a bit of a smug smile on his face and clearly explains the fact that he's got super speed.
Yep.
And he has been able to put the tack on the chair in the middle of the class.
Yes.
Which, yeah, really good conversation, sort of.
He wants to run more.
One of the strengths of the film is the fact that they're able to pack so much detail into these little scenes, and I think it's really good because it quickly introduces Dash's powers. It understands his frustration and his impulsive behavior.
Yep.
Which is really tied in with his literal power about being able to super speed away, and there's like always go, and just pinging around. He can't use his powers and do sport. And then Helen also plants the seed about people being special, and he's like, well, everyone's special, Dash. And then he's like, well, that's another way of saying no one is.
Yeah.
And really connects in, obviously, with what the villain side of things is going to happen.
Absolutely. And it's such a good line, too. It's like, if everyone is, then there's nothing special about that at all.
No.
It's just the normal.
Yeah.
We get to meet Violet here, too. I think Violet is underdeveloped in this film. I think compared to the other family members, she doesn't get nearly as much to do. And they try to give her this storyline here with Tony.
Tony Ranger.
But it's not really much of a storyline. Even in the second film, they do try and flesh it out a little bit, but it doesn't really go anywhere. So I think, she's not developed as well as a character, but I still really enjoy, like, she's got the really whiny voice.
It's not my fault!
It works so well for the role.
It really does. And again, talking about sort of, I guess, personality tying in with the powers, is that literally Violet feels invisible, and that is her power. She can turn invisible, obviously, and do some force fields. Again, sort of tying into the fact that, as you can tell, I mean, we've got a fiery, impulsive character. We've got someone who can turn invisible. We have someone with super strength and someone who can stretch. That sounds like four heroes from a very familiar other family.
Absolutely. But also, you and I have talked about this with superhero films before. We really enjoy it when they do relate the personality types to the characters themselves.
Yeah.
And thematically looking at the idea of Helen being like juggling, being a parent, and
Literally
all the kids.
having to be
like,
so flexible.
she is really stretched, and Bob being this like really strong character that doesn't really get to flex his muscles. And yeah, like it all comes back to their personality types, and it works really well when you tie those two things together.
Yeah.
Also, Violet putting like a shield around herself and enclosing herself off from the world.
With the hair being in front of her eyes and everything like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, hiding away. I guess you talk about the sort of that constriction of like Bob's muscles again, sort of when he goes back home and he's in this super tight car, feels like a clown car that he doesn't even fit in, being trapped.
And some anger issues too with Bob. He accidentally breaks the window, lifts the car up,
And
and we
he's
get to
got a
meet
bit of a pathway.
the little kid on the trike.
Put the car down and
Yeah.
get inside. That might be busted.
So good. I love this sequence too when they're at home and we just see their home life and all the interplay of characters. Like, it's really clever writing to not just be like, now I'm going to focus on one character, now the next one, now the next one. They're all doing things and we're learning so much about the family simultaneously. And Jack trying to eat And Helen, like, making the
Yeah,
faces
Dad.
with it. You're making weird faces. No, I'm not. You make weird faces, honey.
They start talking about, obviously, the fact that Dash has gone to the office. But Bob gets really excited by the fact that Dash has been able to move so fast. He's like, in the same class. He's like, whoa, you must have been really booking it. How fast do you reckon you're going? And Dash starts razzing up his sister about Tony Ranger. And then eventually cracks it and they fight.
Yeah, and there's this whole kind of, you can see there's a lot of tension about the fact that they're not a normal family. Violet goes, the only normal one is Jack, and he's not even toilet trained.
And then it cuts to Jack, they go, and there's this quick little laugh.
Little seed planted here. We find out that Gazerbeam is missing.
Yep.
We just know that a normal man is missing in the newspaper, but Bob identifies him as Gazerbeam. So we see that there might be something sinister happening in the background.
Yes.
Old Lucius comes in, does the cool trick with the spit.
Yep.
Oh, I like it when it shatters.
Yep. The boys are heading out for bowling night.
Yeah.
Which is not really
Bowling through some buildings, more like it.
Nice. Basically, they sit in the car and listen to the police scanner and are trying to sort of connect to the glory days and talking about the monologuing. And he's like, yeah, this guy had me on a silver platter. And he starts monologuing. That's so good.
But you can tell that Lucius isn't into it as much as Bob is. He's worried about the dangers of going back into superhero work.
It's like, what if we actually did what I was
think we're doing? Just to mix it up.
Yeah.
And we get the fire on the police scanner. And so,
so good.
Awesome animation.
Also,
really
as well,
cool
we
sequence.
see they're being watched as well.
Yes, we do, by yet to be identified Mirage.
Yes. But yeah, the animation, you talk about that drop into the building. Ooh.
Yeah, and also when they're in there and they're fighting about like the logistics of what they're going to do, the dialogue is so quick, it's sharp, it's so engaging. Like the way that they can balance the mystery, the action, the comedy, all at the same time, and the heart is
very impressive.
Yeah.
It's me, this hot, and I'm dehydrated, Bob. You're out of ice? You can't run out of ice. I thought you could use the water in the air. There is no water in this air.
I also like the fact that they are basically dressed up like traditional criminals, even though they are heroes. Like with the
they're in hiding
and balaclavas and everything like that, because they are doing something that's technically illegal.
Yep.
It was like, well, we're going to take the building down. I was like, okay, well, basically you're going to have to do that. So
Yeah,
they pick up the
follow me.
people who are in the fire, go straight through and crash into a jewelry store and accidentally set off the alarm.
What are the odds? This scene has a really cool little Easter egg. I alluded to it the other day, but you were like, oh, I haven't heard this one. So, in Die Hard 3, which obviously has Samuel L. Jackson in one of the leading roles, at one point he has to answer the telephone as part of like the rules of what he is of going through for Simon Says.
Yep.
And he's in the train station waiting for the payphone, and a cop pulls a gun on him, tells him to put his hands up, and he's like, if you want to shoot me, go ahead and shoot me, but I have to answer the phone. And they mirror it in this sequence where the cop has his gun on him, and they've even animated this cop to look like the cop from Die Hard 3.
Really? That's awesome.
It's very, very cool. You can see, like, if you look it up on Google, you can see the panels, like, side by side.
Cool.
But it's very cool. I'm thirsty.
I'm just getting a drink.
I know.
I know.
Freeze.
And they get the really cool animation of the bullet being fired.
Yeah.
And it's just frozen sort of out in front of the cop. And obviously, Bob and Lucius have got away.
We've talked about the logistics of this. Is that cop dead?
Anyway, we don't know.
For sure.
But Mirage basically has seen the whole thing happen.
Yep.
And whoever she's talking to is saying, confirming you're changing target, is like, yeah, this is the one he's been looking for. So clearly they've been going after Lucius. But Bob has done a really good job staying hidden. They didn't know he was basically still on the cards and operating with Lucius.
And also his importance to Syndrome. So we haven't even met Syndrome yet, but she's like, no, this is the one he's going to want.
Yeah.
And it's like, is it because he's more powerful, or is it because, obviously in the past, there's that connection?
Yeah.
Little meta humor here as Mr. Incredible is humming his own theme coming inside.
That was, I didn't know that. Like, on Friday, I was like, is that okay? Yeah, he's just humming his own theme.
Yeah, so it's that banger of a track.
So Michael Giacchino exists in universe, maybe.
Oh man, so many layers.
Incredible, but he's about to be followed by the most dangerous foe of all.
Oh my goodness,
your wife staying up after you haven't got home on time.
Helen's stare is whoo. That'll freeze you.
That's like an Aunt Lucy Paddington special.
Yes, absolutely it is. I, again, really like some of the dialogue in here. I love Bob's frustration. Helen's like, why aren't you getting excited by what the kids are going through? Like, what about Dash's graduation? He's like, it's not a graduation. He's moving from the 4th grade to the 5th grade. It's a ceremony.
It's psychotic. They keep creating new ways to celebrate mediocrity.
We both agree with that. Why is there a graduation ceremony going from grade 4 to grade 5?
Anyway, but it feels like sort of, again, as much like Helen basically says this is like, we're not talking about you. Like he's reflecting his own sort of anger about certain things, about sort of the fact that he's not able to be super. It's same as Dash.
His priorities are all out of whack.
Yeah.
Excitement can come in many forms, and being there and celebrating your children is the one that obviously Helen's saying there is excitement in that. That's
You're
what
missing
you should.
this adventure.
Yeah, exactly right. And again, we get a quick cut to the workplace, the bland color palette compared to like the fiery excitement of the night before.
Yep.
It's really, really well done. And his boss confronts him and tells Bob essentially not to help people.
And then while this is happening, literally there's a person who needs help because someone's getting mugged in the alleyway. And Mr. Huff basically is like, I don't care. You know, hopefully he's not one of ours, basically.
Well, I mean, imagine that, an insurance company that was helping people.
Inconceivable.
Basically, Bob's going to go out and help him. And Mr. Huff's like, well, turn around or you're fired. And then
He grabs him like one of those squeaky toys.
grabs him by the neck and throws him through about 7 different walls.
It's pretty cool.
They have to basically go, I forget the character's name that he's talking to.
I like to just call him the cleaner.
Nice. Very good. Basically they have to like talk about sort of relocating, obviously, because Bob's going to get fired, and it's a constant issue every time sort of they use their powers.
Yeah, and costs a lot. He even says the line, money, 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 money. And it reminded me of Andy in Toy Story with Mr. Potato Head. Money, 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 when he's like playing with the toys.
Maybe that was another Pixar reference.
Who knows? I'll put them side by side and we'll see the comparison.
Every time it gets harder. Money, 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 money.
Empty that safe. Money, money, money.
And Bob gets home and he kind of just really resignedly sort of gets out of the car, and the kid's there and is like, what are you waiting for? And he's like,
I don't know. Something amazing, I guess.
He's like, yeah, me too, kiddo. But while he's cleaning out his belongings after obviously getting his severance from his job, there's something else in there which feels very like Mission Impossible, almost a little bit Matrixy, with like the sort of something additional thrown in with his supplies.
Wow, the comparison is overt when it says the message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
It's definitely some MI there, but
Mirage's card even has the Mirage in the text font, which is so cool. Basically gets recruited for a secret mission.
to take down the Omnidroid, which has been wreaking havoc on this island. Says he's going on a work conference, really he's going off on adventure, and he's back in the game.
Great shot that they used, comparing him looking at like the wall of awards and articles about all the great things he's done, and then after the sprinklers turn on, cutting to him just drying the pages. And they always do a really good quick cut between one thing that's very exciting about being a hero and then the monotony of his home life.
Yeah.
We get to the island and the color. It is so vibrant.
Yeah, it's a green jungle.
Oh yeah,
It's a green jungle. But basically, it gets himself back in the game.
He's a little out of shape.
Yep, when they're trying to like get him through to the like a pod, getting off the plane and stuff. Very good. But slowly works his way back into it. The Omnidroid finds him.
Yep.
And they fight. And
the fight is awesome.
it's really, really good fun. It's like taking place in the jungle, obviously, and because they establish the fact that this robot learns like the longer you fight it.
Yep.
And sort of, is able to sort of pluck Mr. Incredible out of midair when he tries to jump over it.
Really ahead of its time. AI there. A learning robot.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a Terminator, basically. So like Taskmaster from the Marvel Comics.
That's it. That'll come back later too.
It will.
Couple of really cool moments about the fight. We get a bit of a Raiders reference with the boulder-like robot, and then he's like running to escape. That's a great looking shot. The lava looks awesome again. The colors very, very bright, and also just a really clever way how he works out to defeat it.
Yep.
So it defeats itself essentially.
Exactly. He gets inside and basically lets it sort of take itself out. And then that's that. And then Mirage and Mr. Incredible like have dinner, and it's all
again. There's like that sexy mystery
and
kind of
midlife crisis, another woman sort of a vibe that happens. And then we start getting this like montage of Bob really happy at home, getting like a new work car, and he's getting fit and training, and
throwing the football for Dash.
He's got this good work and life balance.
That's it. Now that he's got got excitement in his life, the home stuff is more exciting for him as well.
Yep.
He's also a lot more like flirty with Helen as well. Yes. I love that sequence where he keeps going out for work for the day.
And she
keeps pulling him back in.
That's good fun.
Really good. And the music is
very upbeat.
Oh, I love the music track here.
Really good.
Oh dear.
But we get out of a montage mode, I guess, because before Mr. Incredible, one of the things like not understanding is like, is he going on more missions? Like, what more missions is he going on?
I think he's just like going out for the day and training at the train yard.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So they never really established whether this is going to be an ongoing position or like a one-off. Obviously, he's very optimistic about doing more hero work. So he goes out for the day, lies about not having his job, and then, he does some training.
Yeah, but speaking of suits, unfortunately...
Some training in the train yard.
Very much training at the trains. Speaking of suits, his old faithful blue one has got a rip. And who does he have to go see?
It's Edna Mode and guest.
My God, you've gotten fat.
Played by Brad Bird himself.
So good.
What a role. This is a hobo suit, darling. You can't be seen it. I won't allow it.
And then he's talking to her. He's like, oh, did I see your designs somewhere like in Spain or something? Milan, darling, Milan.
Edna floats the idea of a new suit, and he's like, where the heck am I going to get a new suit? You can't. It's impossible. I'm far too busy, so ask me now before I become sane.
But even like Edna as well, it shows that like, although the fact that obviously she's a very successful fashion designer, she's sort of is like, yeah, great. But when she's talking about like the models and really sort of disparaging, it's like, I used to design for gods.
Yeah.
But maybe you've come with the challenge.
But so the reflection of the two characters.
Yes. Like supers are being missed a little bit.
And Edna always knows more in these films than she lets on. And we've learned that later when Helen starts to become a little more wise about it. But some of the deliveries of lines where it's like, oh, I assumed you knew, darling. But really, it's like, yeah, I knew what was going on.
Yeah, like, come on, man.
I see it in myself.
Yes, and but Edna's very wise as well when it comes to fashion and has one clear rule.
No capes!
No capes. And then goes through all of these
dates.
Examples of all these heroes that have basically killed or in an accident as a result of it.
1939, like just jumps in, launches into.
It's like, but no, another one, and another one.
Another one.
Oh dear.
But yeah, no capes, but has a suit on the way, essentially.
Oh my goodness, the new suit.
It's very red. It's
you don't like it?
Red. No, I do.
And I like the idea of having two different suits for the two eras. It's also
sells more toys.
It does sell more toys. It is also why it's such a staple of superhero films for suit upgrades and multiple things, because they do rely on being able to merchandise stuff.
Yep.
But it's so vibrant. It looks fantastic with the greenery in the background.
Yeah, it's just all the primary colors just popping off each other. Absolutely popping. It's really, really good.
In the words of Admiral Akbar, it's a trap.
It is indeed a trap because basically there's an upgraded version of the Omnidroid.
Yep. It's bigger, it's better, it's too much for Mr. Incredible.
And now we get to meet Syndrome. And very quickly gets a little bit monologue-y, and then because it's like, after all, I'm your biggest fan, buddy. And it's like, my name is not Buddy.
Yeah. There's great moments here. You sly dog, you got me monologuing.
So good.
But when he's like bragging about it, he's obviously got these like gloves or wristband things that he can freeze people with.
He's got like this sort of like ray.
In itself is a very cool power.
Yeah, like the tech that he's able to design is obviously really, really impressive. Like he's been building these robots using the super, I mean, we'll get there with Project Kronos, but basically to upgrade them and to make them smarter. But yeah, then he accidentally knocks him away.
Kind of throws his arm up in the air, like he's just being really expressive with himself. But because he was holding him in the beam,
Syndrome!
He throws him away. Yeah, so essentially you know that he's building the robots to kill off heroes because he wants it to get to a point where no other hero can defeat it except him.
Yeah.
So that he can come in and save the day.
Correct, yes. Basically, Bob goes flying into the water.
Yep.
Syndrome...
Oh, how good does the spandex look when it's wet?
It's
The animation,
the sheen.
It's very, very cool.
And then, yeah, Syndrome sort of like drops a little bomb in there, which I kind of enjoy because it looks like it's shaped like an eye as well, like because it's sort of where it fits in his gauntlet. That blows up, and then Bob sort of gets blown into a cave, and then really smart as well, like making sure to check that he's dead, basically. Bob finds the skeleton of Gazer Beam.
Hiding under the bones of another super? Oh, man!
So good.
So impressed.
He's very impressed. He does. He evades capture. Syndrome thinks Mr. Incredible is dead.
Yeah. So he goes into the lab.
Gets on the computer.
Knows the password because he saw it was where Gazer Beam was. Very convenient. We don't know how Gazer Beam got the password, but...
Or how he, just scratched it on the wall or something like that, I guess. Yeah. With this, it matches up with the stalactites. So
I really like that.
It was cool.
It is cool.
I'm gonna suspend some disbelief right now and just say, hey,
it's a cool shot. It's a cool shot. Not only is he planning on sending the robot to what's the town's name? Metroville.
Yep.
Which is that the same town from Megamind?
Sounds like it, doesn't it?
It does.
Generic big superhero American city.
So even though he wants to go there for some glory, we find out there's a lot more sinister stuff at play because some people are going to get hurt by the robot before he manages to save the day, but also that he's been knocking off quite a lot of superheroes.
Like absolutely goes through like each robot's killing like at least like 3 and 4 basically.
He finds out that they know where Frozone is, which we already knew from earlier in the film, but he's a little bit worried about Helen and
the sigh of relief. You talk about sinister. We talk about the music in this scene.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. This is a very, like, popular, like, social media, like a TikTok sound that people use when people, like, looking at conspiracies and stuff all the time now. So that's just what I think of. But, like, it's just really good how it builds up. Again, the horns in this score, just...
and the cuts to his facial expressions to really emphasize that, really good.
Just the horror on Bob's face. Yeah.
Then we cut to Helen.
Yeah, so she's going to have a chat with Edna.
Yeah, so
and has
as
no
you say,
idea.
Well, she essentially thinks he's cheating because she finds a hair of Mirage. She goes there. Really, really fun. Like, all the technical stuff is very, very good.
Yep, so not only the fact that Edna has designed a suit for Bob, but also as well, I couldn't stop, and designed suits for the entire family.
The way Edna walks, like bouncing around the studio, the lab, whatever you want to call it, to demo them is fantastic. Shows Jack's suit first.
Yeah.
What on earth do you think the baby will be doing? Well, I'm sure I don't know, darling.
Jack doesn't have any powers.
Luck favors the prepared, and luck does favor the prepared because everything that Edna does for that suit turns out to be one of Jack's secret powers that we find out about at the end of the film.
Just a couple of those powers.
Couple of coinky dinks.
Just a couple of powers. But one of the things that all of the suits has is a homing device. Do you know where he is?
Do you know where he is? The double down on it?
Yeah.
Very, very good.
Do you want to find out? And then Helen does and hits the button. So as Bob is basically finished working out what Project Kronos is, pinging device happens because his homing device has been activated, and that alerts security in the room.
Yep.
Who fire these really cool looking like black goopy things.
Yeah.
That are really like
They
effective.
just expand into...
And weigh him down, and like
Yeah.
it's this effective way of bringing him down, and he gets captured as you see Mirage sort of walking into frame as he goes to black.
Really, really sinister. Again, we cut back to Edna and Helen, and Helen's like crying because she wasn't aware of this. He's been lying to her, and Edna gives this pep talk. He's like, "What are you talking about? You are lost, girl. Pull yourself together." And like sweeping the tissues into like
It's
the
like
little
incinerator,
flame
yeah.
incinerator thing. Oh my God. So Helen decides to go after Bob, takes the new outfit just in case, and the kids see the outfits too. What are these compared to the Dash?
The Dash.
The Dash likes. Why does he always refer to himself in the third person?
I mean, he's a young superhero.
He's a young superhero. Let him cook.
Let him cook indeed. Helen's called in a favour. He's got a jet from an old mate, and basically is flying over, but quickly works out she's not alone. The kids have stowed away. And
we get one of Violet's most whiny lines in the whole film where she goes, "Dash ran away and I knew I'd get blamed for it." And like Dash is trying to talk at the same time. Like the layering of sound whenever these characters talk, again, because it's like that is a natural thing that kids would do. They're trying to explain and justify and talk over the top of each other, but traditionally in a lot of films, they will just say the lines one at a time, one after the other, and this brings a sense of realism to quite a quirky scenario.
Yeah, and that's that family dynamic, yo. That's what it is. While this is all happening, Bob is being captured and he's being interrogated by Syndrome. Since when does Mr. Incredible ask for help? It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Plays an audio clip of Helen trying to radio into land, and then he recognizes the voice, and that's really clear with his facial expression. And Syndrome's like, oh, you do know these people. I'll send them a little greeting.
Yeah.
And then fires off some missiles to take down the plane.
Heartbreaking scene. The cuts back from Bob, like worrying and screaming after, but also the sequence itself, the like how intense it is on the jet, with like Helen trying to get Violet to do the force field around the plane, and like she just can't do it, it's too much pressure. And
the plane's like corkscrewing around, going like about to crash in the water, and then it sort of boosts away and stuff. It just, again, the animation, incredible. And it looks
really
great,
is.
and that tension keeps getting ratcheted up. I'm not sure what the airline code is. I can't remember. It's like there are children aboard.
Indian Gulf 999?
Not that one, but she says something specifically about like what where Buddy spiked. There are children aboard. There are children aboard.
Disengage, repeat, disengage.
And then the horror on Mirage's face and being like, we've gone too far here. There's kids on board.
Oh, yeah.
There's limits to this. And then, obviously the plane explodes. Helen is quickly thrown into
wrapping
action.
around them.
So good.
And just afterwards, just like, brace yourselves!
I don't know. Parachute.
I don't know how they reached the water before the plane did.
Going slowly.
You know when she's like, don't panic, look out!
Well, just part of the plane was still
just floating
down.
in midair? Yeah.
Plot convenience. But yeah, Mirage also as well, again, sort of showing that indecision that she's having. She's choking on her words a little bit when she explains that...
Not just her words in a second.
Oh, true, good. But he's like, no one survived the crash. Confirmed hit. The Syndrome is like being really callous here.
Yeah.
And Bob is... understandably, he thinks his family are dead. He is incredibly vengeful and goes to basically grab Syndrome, but Mirage pushes him out of the way. And so Mirage is basically getting choked out, and Syndrome's like, all right, do it.
Yeah, kill her. Whatever. And he tries to play it off when Mr. Incredible finally does let her go and be like, I knew he wouldn't do it. But I think Mirage has been pushed too many times that day.
Yeah, and because he later on, sort of when he cuts to her, he like tries to give her a kiss and stuff like that. I was like, nah. Like gamble on someone's own life.
100%. And we get maybe my favorite line in the whole film when it cuts back to the family with Dash going, we're dead! We're dead! We survived, but we're dead!
So good. So good. It's just like, and then Helen's like splashing water. It was like, hey, cut it out.
Yeah.
We're all good.
Get your shit together.
Basically. And
we gotta go towards the island.
And to do so, there's a bit of violence like, I'm gonna swim. It was like, no, I can turn myself into a boat. Dash can use his tiny little legs.
And Violet, you can do nothing. You can be there for your sparkling personality.
And sit there and be sad.
Yeah. You want to go towards the people that tried to kill us?
It's like, yes, we do. But basically, Helen gives the kids a bit of a pep talk, saying, hey, use your powers, embrace this now.
Gives them the masks.
Gives them these little domino masks to protect your identities. And then Violet again sort of like goes to apologize and stuff like that. But Helen's really good here. I was just like, no, it was wrong for me to assume that much of you in that moment.
She's a great mum. She's real good.
Really apologetic and saying to basically, like sort of back yourself in and, use your powers and everything like that.
Yep.
I'm going to go save Dad.
This action scene or sneak scene, whatever you want to call it, Helen sleuthing her way into the lair, and particularly because we've seen Bob do it, it's really cool to see their different methods of doing it based on the powers that they have.
Just the swinging and then flipping back on.
Yep.
Pressing ourselves against the wall of the tunnel when another car goes past. Really good.
The security door sequence.
And also just one of the things that we talk about, like spy references, the rocket. Seeing that in the launch bay is so 007.
100%.
Or Austin Powers, depending on which way you look at it.
And also, like, you think, like, 60s era, it's like space race kind of stuff. It's very, very good.
Yep.
The other big comparison between Bob and Helen, they both have, like, some self-conscious issues about the fact that they've gotten a little bit older and they're a little out of shape.
Yep.
You see her, like, looking at her own reflection and, but the door's closing. She is spread between, like, 4 hallways with a different part of her in each one. And the guards just like poking at her leg, and it's just like,
what is this?
Like, are they French? It's Bon Voyage.
just rips off his security.
What is this? What is this leg sticking out of that door? But she has this frustrated look on her face where she like blows the fringe out of her eyes and then kicks the guy. He shoots one door. Her legs come flying forward and she like slams the other two out.
And there's the guy who's in the other room and like one's been knocked out and then he's just like sort of feeling around for his face. Yeah, there it is.
Bang. Gets him. Even the part where she like clotheslines the guards that are on the like little zip scooter thing.
Like, it's just great. The whole sequence, very, 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 very good.
When she goes into the security room and she goes, Bob, huh? What? Huh? I didn't say anything.
Dash and Violet as well, they're sort of like exploring around the cave, but we quickly work out that that's basically where, you know, sort of the
ventilation shaft for the
yeah,
rocket?
I guess, yeah, that's where the flame trail's going as the rocket launches.
What did you do? But
yeah.
he pretty much saves his sister, and it's a bit of foreshadowing. Like, these guys, as much as they like give each other a hard time, we see some really great moments of them protecting each other later on. Like, get off my sister!
Yeah.
It's
shot.
very, very cool.
So yeah, the kids wake up in the jungle and the guards are alerted. So Dash has got to run off and Violet turns invisible.
The bugs, as Dash is running, realizing he can fight because he's also fast with his reflexes.
Yep.
Very, very cool.
Like, oh, yeah.
And the shock on his face when he goes off the cliff and lands on the flying speeder things. And he's just like, oh my God, I survived.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And we get that happening like 3 or 4 times in the scene, like when he falls off it again and holds onto the vine.
Yeah, he's just trying to sort of back himself because, again, he hasn't used his powers like this at all. So, yeah, I think it's really, I really love the sequence sort of there. Yeah, cutting back to Mirage, who frees Bob. And then he's going to basically kill her.
Really, because Helen's right behind her.
Oh, yeah, and lets her know the family alive. They hug it out just as Helen rocks up. It's like, you must be Mrs. Bush.
Yeah.
And gets knocked
Mrs.
out.
Bush.
Mrs. Bush.
That's what they call her. Mrs. Bush. Helen Bush.
Bob, do you take Mrs. Bush to be your lawful...
No, she wasn't Mrs. Bush until she married Bob Bush. And now they're the Bushes.
That's what the film's called.
The Bushes.
Oh, we're back. We're back.
It was quite a side note.
But yeah, so like Helen rocks up and they're all good to go. They kind of have a little bit of a powwow and it's like, yep, no worries. All right, let's get into this.
Yep. Back out in the old jungle,
Yes,
Dash running on water.
Oh my God.
The laugh that he does, because obviously he can't realize, so he closes his eyes.
And then the score picks up as well. Is like a bit more elated. Just this whole water sequence again, like how good that looks with the water.
Yep.
A couple of the other things as well, like, you know, sound of the guns sounds really cool. I love how good it looks with the bullets hitting the water and creating like
with
water.
Violent invisible underneath,
Well,
and the
that's
guard throwing the dirt.
Yeah, to like find her and but yeah, even like when Dash is sort of going through and there, I always think it's really funny how like vehicles like that are designed because it's got the guns on the side and it's basically shooting alongside
Dash.
the character.
Yeah,
and it's just if I run in the middle here, I might be all good.
Set.
I'm fine. But yeah,
I will say this is the slowest that Dash runs in the entire movie. Think about earlier on in his classroom. He ran so fast it was imperceptible on camera.
Yeah, it's like makes it hard. It's just like, well, how fast are these vehicles that are chasing him? Damn, Syndrome makes some good tech. He makes some.
He does make good tech.
I love that. Yeah, because he's going to go through the tunnel, but there's one vehicle at that side, another other side. I love like just the turn he has when like the water kicks up as he's braking and stuff.
Yep. And then obviously falls between and they crash above him.
Smart
Luckily
thinking.
they don't land on him afterwards.
No, they're again slow-moving vehicles hitting the water.
That's it.
It's really good. But yeah, as you said, Violet's sort of like hiding, and is about to get shot when she gets sort of found out. But Dash comes in, and as you said, don't touch my sister.
Yep. And they team up. How do you do that? I don't know. Whatever you do, don't stop. And then they team up. They're running through with a force field ball.
Very cool.
And the whole family reunites when they literally crash into each other.
And then we get some just really cool shots of them like in action poses all together as a family fighting for the first time.
Yeah.
They get impressed by like Helen and Bob working together first and they're like, whoa. The really cool shot of like Violet using force fields to catch the bullets and then behind her like Helen's doing like split kicks and stuff. I'm
Again,
like,
well
sick.
choreographed so they're doing it at the same time, not just one beat. Syndrome comes in and ruins all the fun,
Whoa,
freezing
whoa,
him.
whoa, whoa, whoa.
You married Elastigirl, and then sees the kids and got busy. It's a whole family of supers.
Oh, this is just too good. Turns into Buford Tannen.
Look, he is absolutely cooking. He loves this character.
Jason Lee, man, he's crushing it.
He is.
He's real good. He's, My Name is Earl, Alvin and the Chipmunks, and The Incredibles.
Yes, those are all of equal quality. He monologues again about being a hero, and then locks him up.
Yeah, because he's going to go and fly in, save the day to beat the Omnidroid, and then sell off his tech.
Exactly right, because when everyone's super...
No one is.
Nice.
So, yeah, really, really good. I love this scene when Bob sort of is reflecting on sort of how important his family is.
Yep.
And while it's happening, Violet's, like, quickly freed herself, and Dash is like, Dad, and Helen's like, no, let him cook.
Yeah, he needs to say how much his family means right now, which he absolutely does. But I do like that finally Violet pulls her weight. Without her, they couldn't have got out of this situation.
Yeah, and also as well, like she's trying to getting comfortable using her powers, like creates force fields around like the...
It's a clever design, like clever writing, obviously.
Yeah, she frees herself.
Yep.
Really, really cool.
Head on out to like the rocket bay to see where the Omnidroid's going so they can go after it. And the guards who are watching it on TV, they're watching the attack in Metroville.
They're
popping champagne. Every time they run, you take a shot.
It's just Bob who's holding
the cork.
And then closes the door and just beats the hell out of him.
Oh,
and
yeah.
the van just
when that van's a rockin', don't go and knock it.
Also had that. Nice. Basically get the rocket going.
Another good moment for Violet here. They're like, well, how... I can't fly a rocket, and say, you don't have to. You just set it on the same trajectory as the previous one.
Use the previous coordinates as this ass rocket. They're like, of course, Violet. Thank you. Imitate her to her face.
Yeah, I don't know why she's so smart. They haven't really established that she
like
knows anything about rockets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And basically, while the Omnidroid is starting to wreak havoc, we get probably the most recognizable scene, one of the most quotable scenes of all time. Because Lucius is in his apartment.
Listening to some jazz.
He's chilling out. He's
wearing
about to
a
get
turtleneck.
ready, looking real cool.
Maybe putting some aftershave on.
He's ready to
It's
fight
date night.
Exactly.
It's date night.
And then realizes the robot's going past, and he's like quickly sprints into action.
Honey, where is my super suit? Why do you need it?
To know.
I need it. The public's in danger. My evening's in danger. You tell me where that suit is, woman. We're talking about the greater good here. I am your wife. I am the greatest good you are ever gonna get.
Honey. Cooking.
Yeah, I looked that up too because I was like, what is that character's name?
Honey.
Just Honey.
Just Honey.
Yeah. It's very, very
Samuel
fun.
Jackson.
I like too that
loving
his
it.
suit has little like butt dimples for where it should have been.
Kind of like a bit Batman-esque, like at the start of like the Schumacher films. Very cool. But yeah, the robot's wreaking havoc, but who's going to come and save the day? But Syndrome.
Yeah, Incredible.
Coming in to save the day, obviously part of his plan. I love the fact that he goes in to stop him, but he's still causing destruction. He's like, I'm Syndrome, and throws away the gas tank as it explodes.
Yeah, and explodes in the background. Because he doesn't really have any sort of awareness of what the public needs or care about.
Hero.
Yeah, he just wants people to recognize him.
But the robot works out that the remote is controlling him, so he's like, okay, cool, I'm going to blast that off and now put Syndrome in danger.
Yeah, his wristband goes flying, and then the panicked look on his face, and then runs away.
His perfect plan is basically come loose, and yeah, he goes crashing onto a skyscraper.
Yeah, speaking of coming loose, the Incredibles arrive in their rocket Winnebago hybrid.
Are we there yet?
We get there when we get there.
Like classic sort of family vacation movie vibes.
That's it. Helen's literally holding it all together, like she does with the family, but she's stronger than Bob if she can hold up a Winnebago on that jet.
Again, pretty solid.
Yeah.
The fact that Bob was like trying to sort of still play, like catch up a little bit and be nice to Helen. Yeah, the rocket sort of disconnects.
Yep.
The van
comes in,
and they basically
fight about the exit.
And they're swerving across the highway and eventually come to a screeching halt and somersault and turn. And then...
How are we?
Bob's like, turns around, super duper dad! And Dash is like laughing. He's like, let's do that again.
10 voice breaks in one line. Super duper dad!
Sounds like the character from The Simpsons.
That serves the cheeseburgers. So good.
That's the one. One question I do have about this.
Yeah.
When the van lands, where does the rocket go? just keeps flying
into space.
The rocket just goes sailing into orbit. Well, somewhere else. I don't know.
And they have another fight, and at this point you're like, oh, what's going on? Like they've had a few fights in a row here, but it's a really nice moment because you find out that the reason that they are fighting is because Bob is worried if they were to participate in this battle that he might potentially lose.
Because he keeps saying, I'm not strong enough, and then he reflects, as you said, the reason he's not strong enough to go through the idea of losing them again. Because he's already done that already when he thought they were dead, and he just doesn't want that again.
Yeah, and Helen says, we're superheroes, what could happen? And then it cuts to Violet screaming.
What could happen?
I guess the fight is on. Frozone arrives as well, obviously.
Yep.
He has found his
suit. And I will say that I know why they need the divots in the wall for the suit, because Lucius got back. Oh, Juicy Lucy, they call him.
Juicy Lucy Frozone. They kind of start sort of trying to pick away at the robot. I really like a lot of the action here where obviously the kids get separated, but then shows Violet's confidence with her powers, protects Dash.
The teamwork too.
Yep, they do that, and then Bob comes in to save them because Violet sort of collapsed under the weight of the Omnidroid.
Yep.
And goes in. It's not an origin of superheroes, and you're working out people who are getting comfortable with their powers. These are superheroes been doing this for a really long time. They're enjoying being back in the mix of things.
Yep.
And they are so confident in their abilities and how to battle threats like this.
Yeah.
I love how the fact that, like, Bob's like, honey, like, take out the gun, and the fact that she, like, elastics around, like, a post box to, like, fling, like, a sewer grater at the gun. It's really cool.
Not
really
even
cool.
Confidence in their own abilities, but confidence in each other's abilities because they know what they're capable of.
Like, they're a family, they're a team. It's awesome. But yeah, they work out that the remote is key.
He goes to throw, go long, and it's a callback to throwing the footy for him earlier.
Yes, exactly, Ross. I guess he would call it a footy because he's Australian.
Of course, with Squeaker.
Go
long, Squeaker.
Go long, Skippy.
Oh, no, it's stuck in a tree.
The bloody Sharon is up there in the tree with Squeaker.
Oh dear. Great sequence with the teamwork, the interplay, Frozone coming in and like freezing in front of the robot, but obviously then Mr. Incredible realizes, well, of course, if he defeated it last time by getting it to penetrate itself, he can do it again. Which is a bit of a strange thing because if he's been updating the robot...
Maybe work that out.
Yeah, he should have fixed that one.
Syndrome is the hole in the plan. One part, it's all about the powers and stuff, and we see, like, Lucius, I like the, creating the ice bridge that he skates along. But the one part I do like is when they sort of go crashing in the water, and there's almost, it's like, because the robot's coming through the water, it's like a tsunami's about to hit. He freezes the water, so
wave.
Dash has got a safe place to land, and he doesn't get walked over by the water. It's so little.
So you missed that, guys, because this isn't a video podcast today. But there was a moment there where you had a bit of a conniption and just like you.
No, it's just so good. It's just
so good.
Yeah, again, like the animation's brilliant. How cool, like and again, the fact that Lucius is almost he's frozen it to a point where it's not rock solid ice, and Dash is going to like sort of hurt himself. It's kind of a little bit softer and cushions the blow. Just smart. Stuff I wish they had done with Bobby Drake in the X-Men movies, but that's okay. I really like the Iceman character. That's fine. I'll continue. But yeah, as you said, they obviously know how Bob remembers, okay, what can hurt it but itself. And they work out because he's holding on to like the claw and stuff, and they keep spamming the buttons.
Wait, do that again. No, the other one. The first one.
First button, got it. Releases the rocket-propelled claw, goes sailing through the Omnidroid, and it is defeated.
And the public loves him again. Yep. Even the old guys, no school like the old school.
They sound like the two people who are on the balcony in the auditorium with the Muppets.
They do, and they even do a little like good one.
Yeah. Great gag. Great gag. But yeah, like they're sort of, supers are back in town and everything's all fine.
And so they're heading home and they're checking the messages. So Corey's been babysitting Jack the whole time.
Kari.
Oh, Kari, is it?
Kari.
Oh, Kari.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad.
It's okay. They didn't say it in an Australian accent.
That's true.
Kari. G'day, Helen.
G'day, Kazza.
Kazza. I've been
looking after Jack.
Kangaroo Jack.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Anyway,
Looking after baby Joey. Anyway, the messages on the answering machine.
They get progressively more chaotic.
they do, and then the final one is, sorry for freaking out, but your baby has some special needs. I love her, like, Sid the Sloth kind of action.
Good, very good.
Because she's got braces. She's a brace face.
She's a young teenage girl trying to make her way as a babysitter, get a bit of extra coin.
That's it. And if you didn't already know this, there is a behind the scenes video, a mini video about the whole time that she is babysitting Jack.
So good.
We get to see a lot more of that in the second Incredibles film with his powers, but if you want to check out all the stuff that happens, I think it's called Jack Attack.
Yeah, and he's just going through like walls and
Yeah.
just like tumbling around laughing.
It's on Disney Plus as well. It'll be on YouTube, but it's very fun. It's like a mini adventure.
Very good.
But she thanks them for sending a substitute babysitter, and they panic because they realize it must have been Syndrome.
They quickly bust back into the home and they barely a foot in the door and Syndrome's there holding Jack. Jack has frozen them. And oh my God, this is sinister as hell.
Oh, the lighting, like he's got these big bags under his eyes,
like,
the
shh,
music.
the baby is sleeping.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, this got dark. Hey, well, you've taken my future. I'm simply returning the favor.
Yep.
Throws them away and is going to escape through the roof to his jet up in the sky with Jack. But as you said, those special needs have come to the fore.
They sure have.
Jack starts transforming into lots of different things. He's on fire. He's a monster. He turns into like metal.
Yeah. Really heavy.
And they're all from down there squinting. He's like,
They don't know what's going on, but get me up there. Bob, throw me.
And he does.
Throws Helen up.
While Jack's sort of wrestling with Syndrome, he bumps into the plane. The engine starts to explode. And Edna's being like, I told you so, about that certain fashion accessory. No Syndrome, because he gets sucked in the jet. And
Jet turbine.
And he is chopped up into a million pieces, and we see it all happen. No,
Wow,
really.
we don't really. But before he does, he drops Jack. That's probably an important detail.
Oh, yeah, he does. And then Helen catches him, and then,
Helen is like making eye contact with Jack as they're flying down, like, just look at me, just look at mommy,
look down.
and like all the explosions are happening behind her. Very good. And they land just in time for Violet to put the force field around them, and the whole jet just crashes on the house. How is the jet just floating in air? I thought that jet would have to have momentum to keep moving. It's Syndrome's jet. He's
does
an
some weird
inventor.
tech. He does some cool stuff.
But when the dust settles, so to speak, we see the kid on his little tricycle again. That was totally wicked.
Understandably, very weird.
Yeah.
And then we sort of get this epilogue where they're all sort of coming out of their shell a bit. Tony and Violet organise a date, and Violet is sort of the initiator of it.
Yep.
Again, she's not the nervous one in this situation, and quickly runs back up because they're in the stands at the school.
Yep.
Where Dash is
competing in track.
And he's in athletics, and they're so good. It's like, go fast. This is like,
No, slow down.
Close second.
And
And the parent sitting next to him is like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's just really good, and obviously they're really proud of him that he comes second. And then to finish off the film, I love this like ending on the cliffhanger of the Underminer coming out of the ground, and also as well, we talked about those Fantastic Four influences. The Mole Man is the first Fantastic Four villain in the comics, so really good sort of obvious tie in there.
It is a bit of a shame that he's not more of a character in the second film. Like, he gets an interesting opening,
He gets a video game.
He does. But I would say in the second film, they take the name to heart with Underminer, and they very much undermine him as a character.
I mean, it's a good opening sequence.
Yeah, I don't mind it, but you thought he was going to be like the big bad.
Not every comic book movie is going to have this massive big bad who either dies or is sent to jail every time. Sometimes you have these little minor villains, these Underminer villains.
Nice.
So I hope he maybe pops up in the third film or something like that. I think it would be cool.
Oh, yeah, because he gets away, doesn't he? Yeah, what's interesting about this, though, is that 15 years they haven't had a supervillain, and now that something has come about with heroes, now more supervillains are popping up again. So it's the idea of like chicken and egg situation, which one brings out the other.
Very true.
Like if there's some superheroes around, then some supervillains are going to start poking their head out.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's The Incredibles.
It sure is. The only thing I want to talk about before we move on to our next segment is, You and I both talked about how there is a game. Obviously, you mentioned the Underminer game, but the original game that was
Really
on
good.
PlayStation, I believe. It was on. I played it on GameCube.
Yep, PS2, original Xbox and GameCube. Yep.
It is such a good game.
Very well designed.
You get to play as all the characters. You get to do like different types of levels where you're using the different types of powers. I used to love the dash levels where you run.
I wish they could put like dash in some like of the sort of levels that Mrs. and Mr. Incredible have, rather than sort of like the almost like a race sort of thing.
I don't mind the race levels.
Good. It'd be cool, but I'd really like sort of just like the action scenes where he could like gets to actually get in a real fight and stuff like that would be cool.
Well, it's the same with Violet. Like a lot of her levels are boring because you're just like sneaking past things invisible, but I guess that's why they mix up what types of levels they are with the different characters.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. If you can get your hands on it, I highly recommend it. It's a great game.
But yeah, obviously there's a sequel to this film. We may do it at some stage.
Yeah, I'd really like to.
I enjoyed that film a lot. I know there's a lot of people who don't enjoy the sequel.
I really like the role reversal.
Yep. I think it's good fun. I like the themes it deals with in that film. The villains, I think, are quite interesting.
Yep.
And yeah, I think it's a good time. It has me excited. As much as I'm probably not the biggest fan of Disney pumping out sequels all the time, this is a franchise I'm happy they go back to.
Yeah.
I'll talk about this for the second one probably as well, but I really hope it's not a third film with the characters at the same age. I really hope that the kids get a chance to age up.
Okay.
Potentially, are they leading the team where, and that's maybe something that they have to deal with, that they're letting their kids go a little bit or something
That's
like that.
interesting,
So I
yeah.
thought, like a college age, like Violet and Dash, I think would be really cool. I hope they do that.
Fair enough. Well, Brad Bird is our number one listener, so I'm sure he'll take that.
Bird is the
on
word.
board. Oh, have you heard about the bird? Bird.
Walla.
From bird is the word. Anyway, let's move on to weekly watches.
Weekly watches. Weekly watches. I love you.
We should probably preface this by saying, usually when we come back from the holiday break, we have a stacked list of films that we go through. We're not going to bore you by talking through the 100 films that we've seen since we last did a pod.
Each.
I'm only going to really talk about 2 films that have had a big impact on me recently, but we watched a lot, and we had a lot to say about them. You and I are both pretty good with our letterbox, putting in what we have watched, but most of the times we do a review about them as well.
Yep.
Yeah, so go check it out. You can even see some of those films that you and I watched together.
Yes, we did talk about watching Houseboat Horror and Seven, and also Mindhunters as well.
Oh, that's right. I forgot we watched that one.
Which I had a good time with. If you want to know how much of a good time I had with it, go check out Letterboxd. As
Check
I
it
said,
out.
the handles and links are in the description. But yeah, I'm also only just going to talk about 3. I tried to really sort of categorize the films and go talk about a newer film that I watched at home, an older film that I watched at home, and then something that I saw in the cinemas.
Awesome. Well, you kick things off then, mate.
I'll talk about the older film that I watched for the first time. That's Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1978. What a film. I had such a good time with this. I watched this while I was on holiday in New Zealand. Really, really terrific film. I'd obviously known about this film, what the premise is, and some of the actors involved. Stacked cast of Donald Sutherland, Brooke Adams, Leonard Nimoy, a young Jeff Goldblum. It's just... Indeed. But yeah, basically, this is obviously a bit of a remake of this film. There's another earlier version of this film that came out, I think, in maybe the 40s or 50s.
Multiple later versions of this film.
Yep. So it's a pretty classic story, but a bit of an alien sort of plant life comes to Earth, starts infecting people, and creates, I guess, helps to create copies.
Pod people.
Yeah, exactly. The pod people. And Donald Sutherland, I guess, and his a couple of the other characters are trying to work out who's who and how they can basically not be turned into pod people.
Kind of an interesting story too, because it's not like everyone is either. It's kind of like, as long as you go along with it, maybe you'll be okay, which is very much an inspiration for The World's End later on.
Yes.
But is he one of them or is he one of them?
Yes. I really like films that play on this kind of idea of paranoia and fear. I talked about watching They Live last year. Very similar. That film's played a little bit differently, but this is generally, I think, like one of the more like sort of tension-filled movies I've seen in a while. I think the practical effects are excellent. Some really cool sort of body horror stuff. Like this late 70s, early 80s period, I'm probably watching a lot more films from this time as well.
Yep.
And really enjoying the performances here. Like Donald Sutherland, I haven't seen in like lots and lots of movies. Obviously, I probably know him best as Snow from Hunger Games. That's where I know him best from. He's just really good in this film. He's just really, really good. Leonard Nimoy is pretty like sort of unnerving and creepy. Brooke Adams is fantastic as well. It's just really, really good. I had a blast with this film.
Yeah.
Highly enjoyed.
Rightfully so. I'm going to talk about a film that I was surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did, and that is The Crucible. So, familiar with it, I had read the play before a long time ago. Just out of high school, I read the play, but I'd never seen the Daniel Day-Lewis Winona Ryder film.
Okay.
So, for anyone who doesn't know, it is set during the Salem witch trials, and it is basically about a group of girls who are kind of just joking around and doing some like ritual stuff in the forest, and then because they get accused of witchcraft, they try to shift the blame. It's a bit of self-preservation, and they start accusing other people of being witches, and then all band together and essentially throw false blame elsewhere to save themselves. And it starts out as self-preservation, but then you can really see that as it goes on, they're picking people based on things that will favor them in life, and other people kind of cotton onto that, start doing it too. And they also just really start enjoying the idea of other people suffering and other people getting blamed. And I already knew the concept of it, but watching it, the performances from both Daniel Day-Lewis and Winona Ryder are incredible. It's not that surprising to hear that about Daniel Day-Lewis. People say that about all of Daniel Day-Lewis's films, but people rarely say it about Winona Ryder. She is often associated with being quite poor in those types of roles. And the hysteria of it really works in her favor. I've always said that even though I wasn't super fond of her performance in a lot of things, she's really good in Stranger Things because there's an erratic nature to it.
Yes.
And it's the same for this. So I think she's really good, just depends on the role. She's great in this. The things that I really connected with were the theme. I was literally sitting on the edge of my seat to the point where both my sister and Maddie were watching it with me, and they were like, wow, you're really into this. You're in. And it was production context type stuff, like talking about the setting, but also going, well, these sorts of themes are really like cyclical. They come back around again. And,
100%.
This is cancel culture. This is kind of smearing someone's name, and then it doesn't really matter if you prove that they're innocent later on. It's like the damage is done. Yeah, I really connected with it and really empathized with the characters. Desperation for certain characters to not be blamed. People talking about their image and why that's so important, and standing by beliefs and not conforming to this idea of accusing other people because they want to just get out of the situation that they're in. Like, it's fantastic. Really, really well written and really well performed as well. So,
awesome.
Yeah, highly recommend.
I have to go check it out. Next up for me is a newer film, but I did watch it at home. It first had its debut, it was MIF either last year or the before, and then got a bit of a release, hitting, sort of Nova and Sun Theatre, these sort of places. And it's called Bird Eater. So it's an Australian film, directed by Jack Clark and Jim Weir in their directorial debut, released for a feature-length film. It's an Australian movie, it's a thriller, and it's really kind of unnerving. It's hard to talk about the plot without getting too much into things, but it's about a girl basically who has recently become engaged, and she gets invited to her fiance's bucks party, which is, a bit of an interesting sort of concept, something that some people do a little bit now. I know people who have done this, to each their own. Basically what happens is like the bucks party is out somewhere in a bit of a remote location. Things get really wild from there. More details about their relationship start coming to the fore, and they're quite unnerving to the other people who are in the groomsmen's party. Then as the night goes on, some substances are had, and things get a little bit sort of trippy and weird.
Yeah, right.
There's some cool sequences that happen, and it's really gorgeously shot. I really like the look of it. The sound design's cool, like really sort of minimal score that I liked. Particularly for a directorial debut, I think it's really exciting to sort of see, what Clark and Weir were able to do, and I'm keen to sort of see what they do next.
Yeah, nice. I've written it down because I really want to see it too. I remember, we might have even talked about it on the pod, but I remember watching the trailer of it and how disturbing it looked.
Yes.
And It just must have fallen off my radar. But
It's on Prime. Go check it out.
there you go. Well, thank you for reminding me. Last one I want to talk about is a film called Glengarry, Glen Ross.
Oh, that's a bit of a classic.
It is a classic. It's also based on a play, so I got a bit of a theme going on today. Dialogue-driven films are I was going to say guilty pleasure. There's no guilt in that. Just a pleasure of mine. And both of my films that I've been talking about are very much that. This one in particular because it's witty dialogue. It's very fast-paced. You can tell, even if you didn't know it was a play, you could tell that it was based on one because of the way that all of these things are set up. Essentially, it is about a struggling group of real estate salesmen. The film kind of starts off with Alec Baldwin coming in and saying, look, the higher-ups aren't happy with your performances. Here's a couple of things that we've been like waving under your nose as incentive, but also here's some more incentive. Whoever's sales are the worst by the end of the week, fired.
Damn.
And so high stakes, the way he delivers that speech and has no remorse for any of the people, he's like, I don't care about your excuses. I don't need your sass. This is the circumstance. If you can't meet it, you're out. And it's really, really engrossing. If you want to know whether this film is for you or not, I would recommend not watching a trailer, but instead just watching his spiel from the start of the film, which you can find on YouTube, because it is a way to either draw you in and see, is this going to be the film for me or not, without giving too much away about the rest of the plot.
What a cast.
The cast is incredible. You got
Stacked.
Al Pacino, Jack Lemmon, Alec Baldwin, as I said, Alan Arkin, Ed Harris, and Kevin Spacey. Jack Lemmon, for me in particular, was a delight. I am a really big fan of Jack Lemmon from his early kind of comedy days, The Great Race.
Some Like It Hot.
Some Like It Hot,
Apartment.
yes. It was cool to see him in an older role, a more serious role. And this film I would call a black comedy because of the dialogue that comes through. But the themes are really dark, and it can be a bit soul-crushing at times and dramatic, but there's some heart in it too, which obviously adds to it being soul-crushing at times. But just the performances are awesome. It takes about half the film for Al Pacino to really kind of step in as a main role, but he makes up for lost time very, very quickly.
Sounds like Al.
Yeah, and he and Alec Baldwin, just a bit of a fun fact about it, he and Alec Baldwin were going for his role, and he obviously got it, but they were like, oh, we really liked Alec Baldwin. So they wrote in Alec Baldwin's monologue at the start of the film just so that they could get him involved because he'd done so well in the audition process.
Cool, love that.
Yeah, so Glengarry, Glen Ross, and The Crucible, great films.
Nice one. Couple to add to my own watch list. I actually did see a meme the other day. If it was like the caption, if adding films to your letterbox was a gold medal, and it's a picture of Simone Biles with all of her Olympic medals.
Yeah, that feels like us.
Yeah. Well, we watch movies, but we're pretty good at adding films to our watch list too.
Absolutely.
One film that I did tick off my watch list, my last one for weekly watches, is one of my cinema visits over the break, and I went and saw Better Man, the Robbie Williams biopic. Obviously, this film's had a little bit of... the film hasn't had any controversy, but obviously the release of it and its success, or lack thereof, at the box office has been a bit of a talking point. Biopics get some pretty big sort of people to do it, but a lot of people have complained, or at least been quizzical about who is Robbie Williams and why does he have a biopic? And also, more to the point, why is it a chimpanzee?
A monkey.
A monkey. It's not a blue monkey.
Just a regular monkey.
Regular chimpanzee monkey. Basically, yeah, this is a biopic about the former member of Take That, and obviously very popular British pop star, very popular in Australia.
Ooh, yeah.
Obviously, this has got a fair amount of sort of Australian involvement with this film. Directed by Michael Gracie, who also did The Greatest Showman, which obviously we watched for Film Club last year, and which was my first time watching The Greatest Showman. Musical biopics, I go into sometimes two camps about this. One, I really like watching them because of some of their formulaic nature. A struggle at the start, entering the prime, crashing out, or there being a problem, and then finishing off strongly.
The redemption arc. But whatever they said, whatever they didn't mean it.
I just want you back for good.
Because as you know, we all can sometimes do, we like cinematic comfort food, and formulaic films like that, sometimes why I don't mind a rom-com as well, because sometimes you want something with a bit of formula. By that same token, sometimes musical biopics, I think, get a little bit tired because of that formula. So this is why I'm really liking Michael Gracey's films, because they are pushing the boundaries of what we come to expect from a musical biopic, and particularly a musical related film. Obviously The Greatest Showman, I mean, it's like a loose biopic, but it's more of like a straight up kind of musical, I guess. There's so many cool visual sequences that we talked about. Feel free to check out that episode of The Fifth Period as well. We had a good time doing that, and wore a top hat and everything. That's true. But for this, again, just some incredible sequences you see on screen during Better Man. Obviously, the fact that Chimpanzee itself is, the guy who does the mocap for that is really fantastic. For the rock DJ sequence where they basically had to block out part of London for like over a week, I think, is probably one of like the best things I've ever seen in a movie, which is a big call. But particularly in this genre of movie, I think it's just like breathtaking how good it, like the choreography is and how good it comes together. There's just like a lot of cool stuff that happens. I think it reminds me of how strong, I guess, Robbie Williams' music catalog is. And also as an Oasis fan, it's got some of the best like little scenes featuring people playing the Gallagher brothers that I've ever seen.
That man is playing Gallagher. Thought we wouldn't notice.
Good. Like that. Like as all good sort of films in this genre does, it, you know, it makes you laugh, it'll make you cry, it's heartwarming, it's very funny, the music's really good. It's just a really good time at the cinema, and obviously while, you know, the box office might not reflect that, I really encourage anyone to go watch this film because, yeah, Michael Gracey's like a master at his craft, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what property he tackles next.
Nice, very nice. Alrighty, shall we move on to Tantalising Trailers?
Let's do it.
Tantalizing trailers. Don't know if we will be a fan. How will it be? We'll know in time.
Alrighty, so rather than starting off with a trailer, I'm doing a bit of a public service announcement for Tantalising Trailers. So you and I, when we went to see Seven, we saw the trailer for Companion, and I only found out today that you closed your eyes. But this public service announcement is that the original teaser trailer for Companion was great in terms of making you feel curious about what was going on, but not telling you anything about what was going on.
Hence why it was a teaser trailer.
For sure. The second trailer tells you everything that's going on.
Got a case of the Abigails.
The reason this is a public service announcement is please do not watch it if you are planning on actually seeing Companion, because I have recently found out, I haven't seen Companion yet, but I've recently found out that the reveals in the trailer, much like Abigail, as you say, is actually something that is only revealed in the film about halfway through the movie, and it's supposed to be quite a sizable reveal with a lot of shock value. So why they included it in the trailer, I have no idea. But yes, avoid that second trailer at all costs if you are planning on seeing Companion.
Or if it plays in a movie cinema near you, close your eyes like Mr. Boylan did.
Yeah, yeah.
And block your ears.
Block your ears.
Leave.
Go,
just
la, 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 as it's happening.
That's our one. That's your free pass to be annoying in a cinema. Any other time, if you do that, we will find out and we will talk to you.
We will hunt you down and
we will.
Oh, we better not. We'll get Liam Neeson to do it for us.
We'll talk. That's fine.
That's it. Nice talk.
We just want to talk.
All right, first film, Mr. Boylan. Hit us up. What's your trailer?
Well, the first one is taking some first steps. It felt only fair to talk about, you know, the super family that inspired The Incredibles, and that's Fantastic Four First Steps. We're getting more footage after some teaser trailers, and we've like got a bit more of a substantial one in our first real look at what's going on for the FF's introduction to the MCU, and by God, I like the look of this a lot.
Yeah, I'm a bit mixed on it myself. Okay. I like the era and like the style of the trailer. I don't know if I'm going to engage with the story, and maybe I haven't seen enough to really know what that story is going to be. It is very much a trailer that's relying on its visuals to engage you. So I guess if I am thinking that looks interesting and intriguing, then that's a good start.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm finding it hard to get on board with Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm.
Okay.
And I quite like Joseph Quinn in Stranger Things.
But you've seen, because see, this is my only experience with Joseph Quinn.
Right. So I didn't like him in A Quiet Place.
Day one, yes.
Yeah, Day One. And I don't want one film to sour my enjoyment of it, so I'm really hoping that this is going to be like the redemption for him. But yeah, I don't really see him as a Johnny Storm type character. I don't think either of the roles that I've seen him in really fit to that. So hopefully he's just got a lot of range, and he will be able to capture that, because I have a lot of fondness for, as much flack as the Fantastic Four films with Chris Evans in them receive, I really liked him as Johnny Storm.
Yeah. I think that portrayal is not, like, I would say, is not the most super accurate when it comes to the comics. And I'm hoping that kind of Johnny has a little bit of that element about him, and he's a little bit of like a rabble-rouser, and he's a bit cheeky. He's like the younger brother exactly would be acting. Not unlike Dash, basically, in The Incredibles. But I think like Chris Evans sort of turns it up a lot to like, you know, like where he's a bit more of sort of like a douchey sort of poser character.
Well, that was Chris Evans at the time those films were coming out, right?
That's true.
Not him as a person, but those were all the roles that he played.
Whoa, okay. Jeez.
Yeah, whoa.
So I think that'll be interesting. But yeah, that's fair. I think I'm starting to come on board a lot more with the casting. I really love the look of Ben Grimm, like the Thing. I think they've nailed that. I was really nervous to see how that would look because I don't like the plasticky look of Michael Chiklis in like the suit. I think it looks bad with Jamie Bell playing him in Joshua Trank's film. But this looks super comic accurate. It looks really good. And I really love Eben Moss-Bacharach from The Bear. I think he suits his character really well. Really glad as well they got a Jewish character to play who's traditionally a Jewish, like, New Yorker. So I think that's really good.
We are yet to see Pedro Pascal's powers.
Yes, everyone else's powers you see on screen, and they look pretty good. Obviously, it's still like early VFX, so it's probably not the most accurate thing. It's also good to see Galactus is in a cloud, so that's nice. Also, as well, we get our first look at John Malkovich's character, who's yet to be named. Does look like he could be the Red Ghost, who was like a Russian scientist who basically tries to, with his family of super apes, try to recreate basically what the FF did. I really like, all the theming around like the space race, obviously, at the time. Are they doing a little bit of hiding of a certain thing with Sue Storm, and is she pregnant? So potentially people have talked about like how she's walking in one of the scenes and how they may have used some VFX to cover a bit of a belly or something like that.
A bit of a No Way Home reveal, you reckon?
Potentially.
Mandy Patinkley
from Criminal Minds. Potentially that we've got like, the birth of Franklin Richards, who's obviously a really powerful someone who becomes a mutant, basically. And do we get any Doctor Doom in this will be the interesting one. And then obviously we want to...
I suspect we will, but maybe just a nod.
Yeah, I think, and probably just the main thing, how do we get from this little 60s pocket universe to the main 616 universe? We'll have to see.
They just crash into the ice and then wake up.
Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll just do that again.
Yeah, let's do that again.
So also as well, considering we've on the Incredibles link, obviously at the end of the trailer we get our first little taste of Michael Giacchino's score. I think it's fantastic that he's doing this after doing the Incredibles and what we've
You
heard
are
in
Michael Giacchino to hear it.
I am real Giacchino. I'm Kino for Giacchino.
You're G'd up and you're Kino.
Yep, that's me.
Nice. I'm not so buzzed for it, but one that I am pretty excited for, which again I didn't think I was gonna be, but Jurassic World Rebirth is looking good.
That trailer was, I did say, I was like, have you watched the trailer yet? Have you watched the trailer yet?
I had Jurassic fatigue. My enthusiasm for the Jurassic franchise was almost as extinct as the dinosaurs themselves.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ducky. Anyway, this is looking good. I love the cast. ScarJo is doing all the right things in this trailer. The banter, but also like some of the cheesy action lines and stuff. I'm like, yeah, it is cheesy, but I like it. It's like, that's what we go to these films for. Jonathan Bailey, who I didn't know much about, like, I believe he's in Bridgerton and stuff. I don't watch Bridgerton, but
come to fore, obviously, with
Wicked. Yeah. And he's so good in that, and I think his character looks really good in this. Mahershala Ali, obviously looking great. But the one that I was a bit of a surprise appearance, and only when I rewatched the trailer did I even see him, because it's quite quick. Manuel Garcia Rulfo. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Come at me in the comments if I'm not. But he's the Lincoln Lawyer from the TV series that I adore. So lovely. I am really, really excited. Looks like he's going to be playing like the dad of the family. Like you can see there's a kid in it, maybe a wife as well, who gets stranded on the island separate from the team, and they got to help him out, which is a real familiar element of the Jurassic Park franchise. I just think it's good that they're going back to basics. They're back on an island.
Yeah.
Is nice.
A different island, but still an island. I'm keen with all these new looking dinosaurs. But basically they're saying it's like, well, these are all the dinosaurs that didn't make it onto the park originally because they were too dangerous.
Yep.
I'm like, cool. And then there's the one in particular that's like behind a bit of red.
Oh, the exoskeleton-esque one?
It looks like, I think I saw a comment on YouTube and it described it perfectly. It looks like a T-Rex crossed with a xenomorph.
Oh, yeah.
Crossed with a Rancor from Return of the Jedi.
Yep. Which is kind of what they were going for. Apparently, the production design was genuinely inspired by a mixture of those things.
Love that. They nailed it.
Yeah, they absolutely did. The part that really intrigues me, I was always really disappointed when I read about a scene that was originally in the book for Jurassic Park that they didn't include in it because the visual effects were just not there. And it looks like they're going to incorporate that with the dinosaurs in the water.
Yeah.
They kind of did it a little bit with the Spinosaurus in the third film.
Yeah, but this is like, it'll be on a much bigger scale.
Oh, yeah, and it looks great. It looks really good. So obviously these films really benefit from great visual effects, and as visual effects improve, arguably these action sequences should improve too, but that's not always the case, as we have found in the last couple of Jurassic World films. So
when we did our rival rankings.
Exactly right. So let's really hope that this one steps it up a notch. Good characters, but good action sequences, and blending both together.
Be awesome. Looking very, very keen for that one. Kicking things back over to the MCU. Yes, I mean, this film does still have an asterisk at the end of its title, which I hopefully will get revealed at some stage.
Wouldn't it be great if it just stayed as Thunderbolts asterisk? It was a typo someone put in really early on, and they were too embarrassed to admit it.
Too much of a marketing cost to go back.
That's it.
But yeah, we've got the new T-Bolts, the new Thunderbolts trailer, and I mean, I was kind of keen for this film. I was like kind of optimistic about it, but I'm really intrigued on it now, basically because of what they're doing. It looks like, I mean, it kind of was going to go that way based on who was in the trailer, but sort of what it looks like they'll be doing in terms of the villain, which is the dark alter ego of the Sentry, who is going to debut, is basically a superhero that's already existed, but had been erased, like, sort of from existence, essentially. So it actually debuts mid-2000s, but was out of everybody's minds.
Okay.
But is essentially...
Oh, it's a real Dawn from Buffy situation.
Kinda, yeah. Marvel's answer to Superman, or one of them, probably one of, if not the most powerful hero in the Marvel universe, unfortunately does deal with some mental health things, and he's like schizophrenic. Potentially they describe it as having like BPD.
Yeah, right.
But there's an alter ego essentially to him, because his greatest villain, it turns out, is him, which is this dark alter ego called the Void.
Yeah, cool.
And we see this in a little bit of a smaller scale. I'm not sure how big they'll go with it, but a dark figure who's basically like, looks like he's sending people to like a shadow dimension, and this dark figure. So
this is confirmed that this character is in it?
It looks like that's what they're going with, because it very much
Maybe that's the asterisk. They don't want to fully reveal it, but it's like, actually, the title was there the whole time. We just couldn't remember it.
Could be, yeah. It was in the Void.
Yeah,
there
exactly.
It might be Thunderbolts versus the Sentry. I'm not sure what that'll going to be, but it looks like he might start out as the hero and then turn into the villain.
Nice.
But yeah, I enjoy the interplay with these characters. It doesn't look like Taskmaster's going to survive a lot in this film based on the fact that they are not in the trailer.
Yeah.
It might be like, a couple of the early characters.
A James Gunn killing off. Yeah.
As much as, this film is definitely looking to, I guess, replicate the success of those Suicide Squad films, particularly the second one.
Well, and just the success of James Gunn team-up movies, like Guardians of the Galaxy. There's 100%. A very similar vibe in the comedy.
Which is why I like it. And I enjoy all the characters that are in this film. I was a bit worried initially, actually, from the first trailer. It didn't look like Sebastian Stan was going to be in it much, or he wasn't doing much. There's a lot more of Bucky in this.
Oh, yes.
And I think I love Sebastian Stan and everything that he does, but I'm really glad that they're giving this character just more time to be on screen. He's killing it at the moment, and he's a large reason why, like, I think a lot of people will probably tune into this, particularly because in terms of recognizability of some of these characters, like, obviously you've got David Harbour coming back as Red Guardian.
Florence Pugh Pugh.
Who's probably the other, second lead, I guess, as Yelena. You've got Ghost coming back, Taskmaster, who I mentioned, and then obviously Wyatt Russell coming back as John Walker. So, I don't know. I'm super keen for this film. Like I said, I feel like I'm wanting to get back in a little bit more into my superhero media.
Yeah.
I've had a bit of a break. I think there's been a good lull period, and I think it's a big year for Marvel to hit some home runs with these two films, and it looks like we might be there.
Totally agree. The first trailer did little to nothing for me, but the Super Bowl spot looked great. Obviously, it wasn't even a Super Bowl spot. It was a full new trailer.
Yep.
The action looks incredible, and the comedy and play between the characters so much more appealing than that first trailer.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. Next up, I'm going to talk about an Apple TV show. It's called The Studio. I kind of stumbled upon it, and it presented as like a really terrible horror comedy about zombies that essentially defecate on people, and that's how they catch the virus. And I went, oh, this looks stupid. And then that trailer ends, and it's like a studio looking at a film in it. And all of a sudden, now I'm really engrossed. And so the really big thing about it is that it's Seth Rogen, it's Evan Goldberg working together again. They did Superbad. Look, they've done a bunch of things, but it has a really fun energy because it's all these studio executives standing around talking about what works, what doesn't in this very stupid film. And the benefit of it is there in the main cast, you've got Catherine O'Hara, you've got Seth Rogen, Catherine Hahn, and Ike Barinholtz.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, damn, that's a good cast.
Strong 4 characters that are working in this studio, but because of the nature of the show, every episode will have guest stars playing themselves or fictionalized versions of themselves.
So good.
So you've got, let me just rattle off a couple for you. Bryan Cranston, Paul Dano, Zac Efron, Ron Howard, Charlize Theron, Martin Scorsese, Johnny Knoxville, Josh Hutcherson, Joey Kravitz, to mention a few. So
say Joey Kravitz?
Zoe Kravitz. Did I say Joey?
You said Joey.
I've got Australian in the mind.
Joey Kravitz.
Zoe Kravitz, to mention a few.
I don't know the last one.
No. Old Joey Kravitz. Zoe's twin brother. But, it's going to be fun.
Sounds like they've sunk a fair bit of coin into this.
Yeah, and I hope that in every episode you get to see different styles of movies that they are trying to create.
Yeah.
Johnny Knoxville and Josh Hutcherson star in this defecating zombie one, which feels very on brand for them. It's looking good. So that is The Studio.
Cool. And I think we've got one more that we sort of both had. Less of a trailer and more of a scene, which is really funny because I'm literally talking to my year 9s to says don't show me a full scene in the trailer task that you're doing. Have some cuts in between some different things.
Yeah.
But this is just a straight up scene. But I'm keen because we're back in the Final Destination universe, and this is Final Destination Bloodlines.
Yeah, it's an interesting film to do a trailer for because it is a film about people getting killed off, and it's really hard not to do spoilers for a trailer like that. And this trailer definitely does do a spoiler for one of those characters, but had they gone with a more traditional trailer style, they risk ruining that for multiple characters. So I can definitely see why they have done it this way. I'm someone who has really mixed feelings about the Final Destination franchise. I adore the first film. I do rewatches of the first film all the time. The second one's okay. They've had varying levels of interest for me. Certainly traps and stuff that really appeal to me. And I like the idea of fate and watching it all unfold, almost like a Rube Goldberg machine. That's really fun. But I just think that the characters aren't always engaging and you don't necessarily care about who dies and who lives.
No, I particularly the sequels I find quite disposable, and sometimes you want to a bit of a light horror film to watch, but they are quite sometimes forgettable, as you said, with these characters.
So there's no stakes to them dying.
No, and you're just looking forward to seeing a lot of them die, and then the main characters you don't care about at all, so it's a bit hard. But no, so I'm keen to see how they go with this. I'm intrigued to see what the tagline of Bloodlines is about. Are we getting returning characters or children of original characters? Are we going to go back to that sort of original flight? I'm not sure. This will be the last film role that we get from Tony Todd, who passed away late last year, which was really sad, as one of probably the celebrity deaths, particularly in the film industry, that hit me the hardest. Because I really love Candyman. I really love his role in this. He's terrific. And he's, as much as a lot of the cast changes for these films, he's usually a constant in them as William Bloodworth. So I'm glad that he gets a chance to sort of, have a bit of a swan song in this film. So for that as well, I really want this film to be pretty good because he deserves that.
Yeah, so I'm certainly curious. I guess we'll just have to see how it all unfolds. Cool. That's all of yours? Amazing. As always, guys, I will remind you to like, subscribe so that you can stay up to date with future releases, but also go and check out the channel, have a look at our screen ranking again, tell us what your thoughts are on that. And on that note, we got a dash, but thanks to all of our students who contributed to the incredible turnout last week. We will catch you at the next film club.
Super duper.